Have you ever waited for something so long that you almost gave up hope? A dream, a promise, a breakthrough? Today, we raid diving into one of the most incredible stories of waiting and reward ever told, the story of Isaac, the miracle baby whose birth was a testament to unwavering faith. Our story begins with a man named Abraham and his wife, Sarah. God had made a huge promise to Abraham. He told him, "I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing." Sounds amazing, right? God even promised that Abraham's descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. There was just one tiny, well, actually, massive problem. Abraham and Sarah were old. Like, really old. And they had no children. Imagine being told you'll be the father of a great nation when you're already 75 years old and your wife is 65. Most people would laugh it off. But Abraham chose to believe. The Bible says, Abraham believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. This is a key moment. It wasn't about Abraham being perfect, it was about his faith in God's promise, even when it seemed impossible. Years passed. Then more years. Abraham is now 86. Sarah, still childless, starts to doubt. She comes up with a plan, a common custom back then. She suggests that Abraham have a child with her Egyptian maidservant, Hagar. From this union, a son named Ishmael is born. It seemed like a logical solution, a way to help God fulfill his promise. But this wasn't God's plan. This human-made solution led to jealousy, conflict, and heartbreak within the family. A painful reminder that our timing and methods are not always God's. 13 more years go by. Can you even imagine? Abraham is now 99 years old. It has been 24 years since God first made his promise. At this point, it would be easy to think God had forgotten. But he hadn't. God appears to Abraham again, this time with an even more specific promise. He reaffirms his covenant and says, "I will establish my covenant with you as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for the generations to come." And then, the bombshell, "Your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac." Abraham's reaction? He fell face down and laughed. He thought to himself, will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? It wasn't a laugh of mockery, but of sheer disbelief and wonder. It was just too wild to comprehend. Shortly after, 3 mysterious visitors appear at their tent. It's God and 2 angels in human form. As Abraham shows them hospitality, one of them says, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son." Sarah, who was listening from inside the tent, also laughed to herself. It was just too absurd. She thought, after I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure? God hears her quiet laugh and gently calls her out on it. He asks Abraham, why did Sarah laugh? Is anything too hard for the Lord? That question hangs in the air, not just for Sarah, but for all of us. Is anything too hard for God? Sarah, a bit scared, denies laughing. But God knows. This moment highlights the very human struggle between faith and doubt, especially when a promise seems to defy all logic and biology. But God's promises are not limited by human logic. Just as he said, a year later, the impossible happened. Against all odds, at the exact time God had foretold, Sarah gave birth to a son. Abraham was 100 years old, and Sarah was 90. They named him Isaac, which means he laughs. This name was so perfect, it was a constant reminder of their initial laughter of disbelief. Now transformed into the joyous laughter of fulfillment, Sarah herself declared, "God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me." Isaac's birth was a miracle. It was a powerful demonstration that God keeps his promises, no matter how long the wait or how impossible the circumstances. He is faithful. Isaac became the link, the next step in the chain of God's covenant with Abraham, through which the entire world would eventually be blessed. But the story doesn't end there. Isaac's life is filled with its own lessons of faith. Years later, God tests Abraham's faith in the most extreme way possible, asking him to sacrifice his beloved son, Isaac. It's a difficult and complex part of the story, but at its core, it's about ultimate trust. Abraham obeys, believing that God could even raise Isaac from the dead to fulfill his promise. At the last moment, God provides a ram for the sacrifice instead, saving Isaac and proving Abraham's unwavering faith. As Isaac grows up, he learns from his father's example. When a famine hits the land, Isaac is tempted to go to Egypt, just like his father had done. But God appears to him and says, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and will bless you." Isaac obeys. He stays. He plants crops, and the Bible says he reaped 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. He chose faith over fear, obedience over his own plan, and God honored it. Later, Isaac faces another challenge, finding a wife. Abraham sends his most trusted servant back to his homeland to find a wife for Isaac from among their own people. The servant prays for a specific sign to know which woman is God's choice. And just as he prays, Rebekah appears and does exactly what the servant had asked for in his prayer. It's another beautiful example of God's divine providence and guidance when we seek Him. Isaac and Rebekah's love story begins, and through them, the lineage continues with the birth of their twin sons, Jacob and Esau. So, what can we take away from the incredible story of Isaac? First, God's promises are certain, but His timing is perfect. The 25-year wait for Abraham and Sarah must have been agonizing, but the fulfillment of the promise in their old age made God's power undeniably clear. It couldn't be explained away. It was a pure miracle. Second, human efforts to help God often lead to complications. Sarah's plan with Hagar, while understandable, wasn't God's plan and caused immense pain. It teaches us to trust God's methods, not just His end goals. And finally, the story of Isaac's birth screams one powerful truth: nothing is too hard for the Lord. Our limitations, whether it's age, finances, health, or circumstances, are no match for God's power. When Sarah and Abraham laughed in disbelief, God turned their skepticism into a shout of joy. Maybe you're waiting for something right now. A promise that feels distant, a dream that seems impossible. Remember Isaac. Remember the laughter of disbelief that turned into the laughter of pure joy. Hold on to faith, even when it feels hard. God is faithful. He hasn't forgotten you, and His timing is always perfect. The God who brought a child from a 100-year-old man and a 90-year-old woman is the same God who is working in your life today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through Isaac's story. If this message encouraged you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the powerful stories of the Bible. Let me know in the comments what promise you're holding onto in faith. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep your faith strong,